All right, guys. So we've got another episode of the Growth by Shawn podcast. I'm here with Trey Bruffey today. Trey, how you doing?
Good buddy yourself.
I can't complain. Trey, I found on Instagram, just like a lot of the other people that I've had on the podcast, just through general connections, or just I happened to bounce on their page and like their stuff and look through it and went from there. Um, you might know him better as Be Opposite. Is that
Yep.
that's the brand? How'd you,
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I guess I'll start with how'd you come up with that?
Honestly, man, like when I first got into bodybuilding, I was working with a guy named Chris Edmonds. That's who
Mm-hmm.
runs John Meadows Mountain Dog Team now.
Mm-hmm.
He used to train me when I was 16 till I was 22, I believe. We were training partners, everything like that. And the biggest thing that he instilled with me, and I try to carry on with myself, just anyway in life or with clients, was you have the people that want to be lazy and not do something. They don't want to do the hard stuff. Be opposite of them. Be opposite of
Mm-hmm.
this and that. And it's something that always stuck with me was everything that I was going to do that maybe other people weren't willing to do. I was going to be the
Mm-hmm.
total opposite of them. And that's something that just kind of stuck. And like I named my coaching that, I mean, I was 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
So almost 10 years ago. And it's kind of just stuck and it's just expanded more and more. It's something I really try to instill with just anything in life is we've got a lot of people in this world, like either they're lazy or they want to just skate by. They don't really want
Mm-hmm.
to optimize whatever it is in life. It could be freaking checkers for all I care. Um, they're just not really into like getting into the hard work or just doing what's necessary to get to that next place in life they want to get to.
Mm-hmm. We can jump right into going from there. So with a lot of like clients or general people in the gym that you see, why do you think that is that we've become so lazy, undisciplined, and kind of unwilling to do the work for the result that we want to get to?
So it's not this is not going to be a PC answer. I'm not a PC person at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it comes from our parents' generation and how they raise us. Like
Mm-hmm.
I personally think, and excuse my, do you care if I cuss?
It
Or
doesn't matter to me.
yeah, I just honestly think a lot of people didn't get their ass whooped enough growing up.
Hmm.
I really
Okay.
think we've had too many participation trophies, too many pats on the back. Like I really just think we've essentially like kind of pussified our generation, like the
Mm-hmm.
generation that's getting ready to run everything is I really think a lot of it goes back to our parents or just society in general. I think we're in a really big society where it's like a yes society, a pat on back for everything. If you do this, it doesn't matter if you half-ass it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your paycheck. Oh, if you want to not work for 3 years, you're going to get unemployment, that type of thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just something that we don't focus on enough. Like, I really think that's a missing part. And I think that's what fails. I really think that's what's going to fail our generation. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sad because it makes you not want to have kids down the road because you have a lot of these people in our generation with us being in our 20s
Mm-hmm.
that if we were to have kids, there's a lot of people in our generation that have that same thought process that they just want to skate by. They don't want to do the hard stuff, that they don't care. Um, where it's going to be sad for our future kids when they get to our point, how shitty the world's going to be. So I really do think it's our parents, it's the participation trophies, and that's I'm sure you'll get a lot of gripe from people on that stuff, but that's just my personal opinion is
Mm-hmm.
we've just been yes men, too many pats on the back, and really not honestly, I think what we're missing is brutal honesty. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't want to hear what they don't want to be told. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is something I stand by with just anything in life, whether it be clients, my wife, family, friends, in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
etc., is being very brutally honest. And that can be a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, but it can also be a negative. You can be almost too honest with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've really worked to improve is how to be brutally honest to benefit them. Where I appreciate anytime someone says, hey, you need to get better at this, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's at your job, whether whatever it is. I think that is maybe another key point is we're so worried about everybody's feelings that we don't know how to approach and say, hey, you're great. Don't get me wrong. Like everyone's great at something, but
Mm-hmm.
this is what I think you could improve on. And I think that's what's going to get you to that next level with whatever your goals are. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that for most people it has to come from like an outside source, like some type of coach, or do you think it has to be something that's at some point you have to take some self-awareness and this is how I'm going to change?
I think it's a mix of the two. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think it has to be a coach. I think like we
Or a
like if you
close
talk
family
fit,
member or,
yeah,
you know,
exactly. Like
something
I
like
think it
that.
could be. I think we have a lot of people that say we're friends. A
Mm,
true friend's going to be very honest with you. If
mhm,
you're morbidly obese and very unhealthy, I'm going to tell you that. I tell family
mhm,
members that. I tell friends like, hey, you need to get your stuff together. A
mhm,
true friend's going to do that. A true parent, a true any coworker, anyone's going to say that stuff. So I do think there may need to be an outside source, but I also think that there should be some intrinsic type stuff, or I would like for there to be some sort of intrinsic motivation to do that type of thing. But I
mhm,
think again, that goes back to maybe how you're raised. I
mhm,
was raised on a farm. I was a wrestler. Like, I had scholarships for wrestling I didn't go through, where I
mhm,
was constantly beat the hell up and with the best wrestlers in the state and that type of thing, where it was either sink or swim. And I think if
mhm,
you've never been in that situation, you're never going to rise to the top. Like, you're
mhm,
never going to understand like how to have that thought process if you've never been around it. I do see that with a lot of clients that come to me. They're not used to this. I'll admit I can come across very intimidating or very aggressive. And it's not
mhm,
meant to be that way. It's just a very like passionate person that just honestly I just care too much about everything.
mhm,
And I do come across a lot of people, whether it's just interactions or say as a client or maybe it's at work again, that they weren't used to that. And it takes
mhm,
a lot for them to adjust. If we're talking like a client type of thing, I do have to pull back and slowly introduce them to that type of thing. And there might come a point where, hey, you either want to get better at whatever your goal is or
mhm,
you don't. But I also think other ways that maybe it comes about is hardships. I had a lot of shit come
mhm,
up in life and I just had to get better. I had a car accident where I had to be resuscitated, lost my
mhm,
job, had 50 plus $1,000 in debt, was a drug addict. Me and my wife would barely make payments to have a place to live.
mhm,
Um, I think a lot of my hardships I've had since coming out of college has really made me have that hardworking mentality.
mhm.
Again, the be opposite me mentality of just doing what's necessary to just get stuff done and get to where you want to be in life.
So how do you think, so let's say for example, maybe you have a client that's overweight coming to you, but they came from super stable home, maybe six-figure uh parents, a lot of things given to them. What kind of like relationship do you start to build with them in terms of this is how we're going to start to change things when your story and their story are so much
Drastically
different?
different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost, I'm not trying to say like that you can't relate to them, but it might be harder to relate to them.
Yeah, 100%. There's times
Yeah.
where I can't relate to that person at all. Like,
Mhm.
because you'll have times like, and of course, you've helped people or you've been in fitness enough that there's times that maybe someone says, hey, I can't do this.
Mhm.
I am wired differently. I think we all have the same 24 hours in a day. There's no reason that you can't do something.
Mhm.
And that's how I always thought about it. And it took like a few clients to say, dude, like this is what my schedule looked like. And I realized just some people can't do certain things.
Mhm.
And that's something I've really had to work to like actually be, I don't want to say passionate, empathetic with them
Mhm.
and really try to understand them as a person and stop
Mhm.
thinking of, oh, here's your plan. This is what the person needs
Mhm.
versus there has to be a little bit of wants of things they want to do. There's got to be a
Mhm.
little bit, they have to be comfortable doing it. I
Mhm.
do think there needs to be some uncomfortability, but my first thing is getting them on the phone. I'm very
Mhm.
big on like interaction. I know a lot of like people are like, hey, I'm a nickel and dime you for texting or phone calls or anything like that. I don't do
Mhm.
that. Like, I try to push for that. But again, if we have that type of scenario where we're drastically different lifestyles, drastically different everything,
Mhm.
I'm not going to just keep emailing you or DMing you back and forth or voice notes or whatever. I'm just say, hey, let's set aside 45 minutes. Let's jump on a call. I'm not going to charge you. Let's really
Mhm.
understand like what makes you tick. And
Mhm.
that's where it's my job, like to resort to other ways to work around it. So what I'm first going to look at is like, what's their schedule look like? Cool.
Mhm.
You don't have a normal 9 to 5. Um, what can you do and what can you not do? Cool.
Mhm.
And a lot of it has caused me to get away from my previous practices with coaching,
Mhm,
where nutrient timing, you got to do maybe a walk after meals, hit a certain amount of steps, or
mhm,
take this and that supplement, etc. Where I've had to actually like get really creative. I have a guy now that's Air Force pilot, and he's on gets random missions. Like, and it's kind of one of those things. If he has to eat out, he kind of messages me and says, "Hey, this is what I have to eat. What can I do?" And we have to just
yeah,
figure it out. A lot of
mhm,
it is like very random decisions, and we make it work. Like, I think us as coaches or just the fitness industry in general, we're after these transformations. Great. I'm glad we
mhm,
want to change people's lives, but we're so set in like, oh, you got to do this in 6 months. We're not thinking long term. And like with my coaching, it's being opposite of everyone else. It's after optimal results, but I'm after sustainable results. And I
mhm,
don't care how long it takes for us to reach those sustainable results. I've been known to maybe something that should maybe take 12 weeks. We're taking 24 because I don't want them to just get the results in 12 weeks and they fall off and they're back to where they were or worse. I would much
mhm,
rather take a slower approach where we're making these actual permanent lifestyle changes versus treating as like a prep or a fat loss phase. We have so
mhm,
many names for all these different phases that we're not actually teaching people the key concepts of being healthy and making this a lifestyle and showing them, hey, there's ways you can enjoy life. But there's also times where you've got to pull back and find the enjoyment in eating healthier and living a healthier lifestyle.
mhm. Yeah, I like the way that I like to word it now is less to do with like, oh, gonna do this phase, this phase, this phase, where there's just different seasons of life, and you kind of gotta meet
Correct.
somewhere where they're at in that season of what they're doing, where they actually want to go, and how we want to change it. But at the same time, just like you said, to reiterate this, like we want people to enjoy what they're doing as well. So I feel like finding that kind of like happy medium and balance is what we're looking for.
Yeah, and like
Um,
you said, the seasons of life thing, like that really is something that I think we need to think more about. Like you might have someone like, hey, I want to do this photo shoot prep or a
mhm,
contest prep. What I do is I'm like, okay, where's your current state of finances? Cool.
mhm,
Where's life? Where's family? Where's this and that? If you're coming to me and your wife is 7 months pregnant and you're trying to prep and you're nickel and diming trying to get by, I'm sorry, like you're not going to compete under me. Like I can
mhm,
help you. We're going to put you on like a lower tier option where you have to, frankly, when your wife's 9 months pregnant or something like that, that needs to be your priority. And
mhm,
it's something I learned from Brandon DeCruz. It's the 3 F's. You've got fitness, family, and finances.
mhm,
With something like that, like what I'm doing is I'm going through the different ones and like, okay, what do we need to make a priority? A lot of times people might want to make fitness a priority.
mhm,
Honestly, that might need to take a back burner and you need to focus on finances and family first.
mhm.
And honestly, you should will still see improvements in fitness because you're if you're happy, if fitness and
They're
if
all connected.
finances and families in a good place, your
Mhm,
fitness and your stress and inflammation is going to be down. That indirectly your fitness is going to improve. And I really
mhm.
think that's something maybe we don't preach enough as coaches or fitness enthusiasts, etc.
However you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I think would be beneficial if you're on board for this, just to kind of show people like your thought process of how you might look at someone's life and how it's structured. Um, we could just like use me and as an example,
Yep.
where I'll work like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, um, and maybe 12, 14-hour day, depending on the day. And then something like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. Um, just as like a general, like, okay, I want to be a little bit healthier, maybe improve my body fat percentage a little bit. Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for in terms of like maybe a consult to kind of like get started?
So the first thing that I do with everyone, obviously, you get my intake form.
Mm-hmm,
Intake form's normal stuff that everyone's going to ask. But what I include is a very intensive symptom assessment.
mm-hmm,
And honestly, it can be very overwhelming for people because it's super long. And it's looking at anything gut, anything neurotransmitter. anything inflammation, thyroid, just everything. And the reason I do that is a lot of us, great functional health is in the know now. Like that's the go-to thing that every coach or anyone's talking about.
Mhm.
I'm pleased by that. Like I'm beyond stoked. But again, we're getting these bloods or lab analysis, and we're so stuck on these numbers, what's red, what's not red, what's not optimal, that we're not actually doing a symptom assessment to see what issues they are having or are they not having. For
Mhm.
example, if you came to me and let's say testosterone was low or something like that, and symptoms are fine, like I'm not going to say, hey, dude, you need to jump on TRT. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to do that. I'm going to start making some sort of lifestyle changes and see if we can correct that first. So that's the first thing is I'm going to go through a very in-depth symptom assessment. The
Mhm.
next thing, like what I always do is I do always address the gut with everyone first. So I'm going to start doing some gut lining stuff, very basic stuff
Mhm.
there. Then I'm going to start building the nutrition after I've decided how often you can train. Someone like you, I really think you get away with 2 times per week, 2 full
Mhm.
bodies days or upper lower day, or you could do push pull legs and do it those 3 days.
Mhm.
I'm not under the impression that people need to be training 4 to 6 days a week all the time. I just don't think that. I think when I build like my training, that's the least of my focus. I really don't think that's where progress is made. I think
Mhm.
progress is made when we're sleeping, resting, recovering, controlling stress and inflammation through diet, supplementation if needed, and just lifestyle stuff. And then obviously like nailing nutrition. I think that's the
Mhm.
stuff that we need to focus on first. And then if we get to training, great. And I think some with you, like an upper lower day is more than enough.
Mhm.
Or you could do something like a push pull leg, something like that. So of course, lay
Mhm.
that out. The next thing in terms of nutrition, you're working 12 to 14-hour days.
Mhm.
You're not someone that's going to be able to sit down and do 4 to 5 meals a day. You're just not like,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't expect someone to do that. And I also wouldn't want you to do that. And here's why. With you being in the restaurant industry, you're constantly running around. You're
Mhm.
constant high stress, whether it's you stress because you got a great tip, or
Mhm.
you've got cool customers that have came by, or it's distress because just because you've got an asshole that wants that they're having a bad day and they want you to
Mhm.
have a bad day as well. So
Mhm.
why would I want to push you to eat a meal and try to cram a meal during that time when we both know blood glucose is going to stay elevated in general just because you're stressed, high cortisol. We're constantly going to be pushing out glucose.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, why would I want you to hammer a mill when that's already happening? We're not going to really digest that in general because we're going to more so be very sympathetically dominant. So fight or flight. Why would I want to hammer something like that? It makes
Mhm.
zero sense. What I would much rather do is either do have you eat a meal in the morning,
Mhm.
earlier in the day. Maybe you do a shake sometime in the middle of the day, something that digests easy where you don't really have to worry about it. Um, Maybe something that's protein, fat based, small amount of fruit, something you can just eat and it's not going to mess with anything. I'm not going to
Mhm.
have you try to eat any high protein meal, high carb meal, something like that. And then maybe again, something in the evening. That's
Mhm.
option A. Option B is I am a huge fan of fasting. I know some aren't. I am. I do it myself. Like I'm not competing
Mhm.
anymore. So a lot of times I fast until 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. Like
Mhm.
that's fine. And the reason I do that, it's not because I'm after autophagy or any of that BS.
Mhm.
I literally just can work better. It allows me to be a better person. Like I'm not having these constant swings of blood glucose or digestion or anything like that. Like I can just focus on my job better. I'm in a better mood. And honestly, I'm more energetic. That I just feel better that
Mhm.
way. Um, I'm again a very high stress person. So
Mhm.
I don't do well eating all day. I just don't. So I think like someone like you, it could be small meal, maybe a snack, maybe something I've done for other people there, maybe like a bartender or something, is a meal in the morning, maybe something like an outright bar, for example,
Mhm.
midday, throw some maybe an extra protein shake in there, and then again a meal in the evening. And then you'd make the days that you're not working as the days more so training, um, higher calories for that type of
Mhm.
thing. You treat those days you're not training at the workplace as more so deficit days if
Mhm.
your goal was fat loss. And honestly, I wouldn't push any cardio. Why? Because you're getting so many damn steps being on
Hmm.
your feet all day. It's the same thing if they're a construction worker. I would hope you wouldn't throw a bunch of cardio at someone that's already doing that. So that's where I would initially start it. The other thing I'd
Hmm.
look at is how can we improve your work environment? Like maybe master, and this is something I learned from, not learned, but my wife's second cousin. He was the preacher for our wedding.
Hmm.
Again, I'm a super high stress person. I care about everything. Clients
Hmm.
over care. So if it's bad for you, it's the end of the world for me. I get very overwhelmed and have like a meltdown.
Hmm.
The whole time for our wedding last October, I was just beyond stressed because I'm trying to make sure everything's perfect. We're paying out of pocket. It's just a big day. Big thing he told me is just have the fuck it attitude. And that's something that I tell people now is just have the fuck it attitude. If you have a like
Hmm.
with you at the restaurant, if you have someone that's just an ass, just fuck it. Like
Hmm.
big deal. Like you're gonna come across way more assholes than you are good people.
Yeah.
And again, like that's like things I would be working to do is how can we work on stress perception? We're so focused on, hey, how can we lower cortisol? How can we take this supplement? How can we take a 10-minute walk? How can we chew up every bite 30 times before we swallow it? We're
Yeah.
so focused on all this nitpicky stuff that we're not going back to the key problem. It's not too much stress, it's stress perception. And it's not
Hmm.
the big things that happen in life like a divorce or a death in the family or a car accident, anything like that. It's the small stuff that adds up because like me, I have terrible stress perception. And I do find that most people do have that I would
Hmm.
start working on the stress perception. I would do something I learned from Austin Stout. He's one of my best friends, like my number one mentor. Like, start making a checklist. Anytime you get stressed, cool, put a check mark. If you have a time, write down what stressed you out and maybe write down what it was. And at the end of the week, go through that and see how can you address that better. I
Hmm.
know for me, now that I'm going back into the office all the time versus being at home, I can't tell you how many times I say mother effer or something at a stoplight or get
Hmm.
frustrated driving. I don't like driving at all in general.
Hmm.
That even now I keep a mental note of all the stuff that's stressing me out or dealing with work or just life in general of ways that I can perceive stress better. That would be the biggest thing that I try to work with everyone. Like
Hmm.
people can say, hey, I'm very calm, I'm not stressed. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Then you start going through it. Well, I've got financial stress. We're trying to sell our house. We're trying to buy a new house. That it's normal to you.
Hmm.
You still have chronic stress. Chronic stress isn't big stuff. It's just stuff that's always in the background. And I do think that's the root cause of all like disease, illness, anything. It's a chronic stress that would be the next thing or one of the main things I'd work with someone like you is working on that stress perception. That's something that we don't focus on enough.
Yeah. There's a lot that we can take from that. One, like for um people that work in restaurants like I do and things. Like one easy tip that I can give people is that look, these people are going to be in your life for like an hour or two. It's really not going to matter. It's not that deep. Okay, just because they're having a bad day doesn't mean that you have to. Okay, they're going to be gone. You're never going to see them again. My second thing, I really like the stress checklist. It's not something I've done, but if I was to give advice to someone or someone asked me about a problem, and this isn't something I came up with, I don't know who I can give credit to, but to write down like things that you can't control, things that you can control,
Yes.
and only worry about the things that you can. Throw out the other list. Um, from this like entire synopsis of what you just said. Um, what I want to touch on the most for people that I think is going to be beneficial is the sleep component. So, how can we tell, or everyone as a whole, know that we actually had quality sleep? I feel like that's something that uh, people aren't really like sure about, and just hearing it, um, we can kind of like whatchamacallit it, look at like our sleep routine or how we wake up in the
Yeah.
morning or how we get up or things like that, and then
So
start to work on those things.
I'll go a few different directions. If we go
Hmm.
like database,
Hmm.
obviously if someone's doing labs, they could do cortisol tests, right?
Hmm.
That's one thing you do. You could look at um blood glucose levels. something you can look at. A lot of times, like you can use something as dumb as how many times you get up in the middle of the night to piss.
Mm.
No offense, I don't care how much water you drink or how many people think that's why you get up to use the bathroom. You're not getting up
Mm.
to use the bathroom because you had to pee. You are getting up because there's some sort of event that's making you get up, whether it's
Mm.
stress or it's blood glucose elevation or drop, anything like that, that there's always something else doing that. Like
Mm.
there's times when my life's been great, labs are great. I drink 2 gallons of water a day. Like I'm always
Mhm.
pounding water all the time and super hydrated as well in terms of like nutrients and electrolytes and everything. I'm
Mhm.
not getting up in the middle of the night to piss. I'm just
Mm.
not. I really think that's something I think about at least, that there's
Mhm.
something that's something causing you to wake up. You of
I had
course
no
could
idea.
look at AM blood pressure,
Mhm.
AM heart rate. If you look at the HRV crap, you can. I'm not someone that pays attention to that too much.
Mhm.
Um, so that's like lab based stuff you look at. The next thing is like symptom assessment. Are you
Mhm.
exhausted when you get up? Are you always tired? Cool. Now we need to look at that. Are you constantly like moving around your sleep, just not getting restful sleep? You're constantly waking up, that type of thing. Um, Something I can do that I'm married, my wife kind of tells me if I'm sleeping or not. I'm
Mm.
someone, so like I have really bad PTSD from my car accident and just life
Mhm.
stuff in general, that I get really bad night terrors, that like
Mhm.
I will like scream like for bloody murder, like for help. And now with us, this is our second week back in the office. I'm super stressed just because my entire life from the last 2.5 years was I get up, I go to my desk,
Mhm.
I'm around my cats. When I get off, I can train. I immediately see my wife, that type of thing, or get to working on clients.
Mhm.
My life took an entire 180. Not that's a bad thing. That's just life with a job. That I'm super stressed and I'm having really bad night terrors recently. And I found out from my wife, or I'm someone that has had bad sleep apnea in the past, that again, I use my wife as that. She could tell when I would stop breathing. She could
Mhm.
tell when I was having better sleep. So if you have a companion or a partner or whatever, that's something you could use that maybe we don't think about. Like just because your loved one hits you and says, "Hey, you're snoring."
Mhm.
Yes, you might get mad that they're waking you up and complain about it. We shouldn't really be snoring. Like
Yeah.
that is a common symptom of sleep apnea. So like that's a few different things. Now, like you could obviously look at, is it hard for you to get to sleep? Cool.
Mhm.
Maybe there's some sort of stress component before bed. Now,
Mhm.
things you could maybe do, obviously, good sleep routine. I'm always going to tell people a good sleep wake cycle. So, upon waking, get direct sunlight if possible.
Mhm.
You don't need to do these 30-minute walks or anything. Just get out in the sun. Do that before you start playing on your phone or do anything like that.
Mhm.
Same thing before bed. I prefer a walk at night. That's usually take the time to maybe like call my dad, do something like
Mhm.
that. Maybe call your loved one that maybe don't talk, like have that positive interaction. Or you can do stretching or read a book, do something that's not electronic on a computer or
Mhm.
something like that. You could also limit blue light activity, whether it's red light filters or blue light glasses. I do the blue light glasses thing. Um, Other things, you make the room really cold. You could use
Mhm.
like a weighted blanket. You can use blackout shades. That's what I use in my office, and I use in the bedroom is just blackout shades.
Mhm.
Um, you can sleep with earplugs, make it super quiet. I am a terrible example because I sleep with AirPods and play podcasts all night, and
Oh.
I am 100% destroying my brains and causing worse things. But that's just something I do. I don't know why. Like the
Mhm.
talking soothes me, and
Mhm.
my wife really isn't going to want to hear podcasts or talking while we're sleeping.
Yeah.
Something that we do is like I keep a fan on, not
Mhm.
really to cool me off, but just the background noise, the white noise just
Mhm.
helps me. So those are a few other things. Um, sure you do like soft belly breathing, guided meditation if you're going to do that. Like
Mhm.
great, that's all good things like that you can do. The thing that I think works best is just find something that you enjoy, that you love, something that really like calms you down. um
Mhm.
the problem with that, why I don't always recommend that, is you might have someone they enjoy video games.
Mhm.
Well, if you're playing Xbox Live or anything like that and you're getting pissed off, sorry, you're really not going to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Me and my wife, we enjoy like watching pro wrestling. Like we go to the events and stuff.
Mhm.
Again, if yes, it's fake, it's planned out, but
Yeah.
if something happens and I get all fired up and something that I didn't want to happen, that's probably not the best thing to do. So
Yeah.
tread lightly with that type of thing. Um, I mean, you could look at nutrition. I'm a big fan of carbs and fruit before bed, help
Mhm.
with serotonin. The fruit's obviously going to help with like liver glycogen. So that's
Mhm.
something that can help. Um, say you're looking at supplementation, you do something like 5-HTP, again, can help with serotonin.
Mhm.
Um, you could look at something like theanine, you could look at something like ashwagandha, something like that.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing is a sleep routine. You really don't need all these supplements. You don't need to
Mhm.
take this cortisol blocker, that type of thing, because you could be the opposite. Like you could be someone that's totally flatlined cortisol
Mhm.
all day. We don't need to crush it anymore. You might need some in-depth protocol, that type thing. But I
Mhm.
think just a good routine, a good sleep environment,
Mhm.
the free stuff in life. You don't always got to pay
Yeah.
something to take something to reach your goals or be healthy. We have a
Mhm.
lot of free shit that we can take advantage of.
Yeah. You've just given so many different options, and it's about like looking at what you're doing and actually changing that. And like there's so many different options. People know what to do, but this is just a big broad list, which is nice for people because they can
Yeah.
kind of pick and choose and
Some have what
try
they could
different
do.
things.
Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say, "Hey, do guided meditation, do a gratitude journal, or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'm gonna give that to some people, but like me, if
Mm-hmm.
I do guided meditation, I get frustrated, I get stressed out. Like it doesn't work well for me. You can give someone like a journal. Some guys, if they're hardcore people, they don't really want to take time to write in a journal. They just think, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the best thing to do."
Mm-hmm.
Um, you might have someone like I said the thing, maybe call a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
You might be someone that doesn't have that loved one, like, and it sucks for him, but like you got to pick and choose what you get out of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my the biggest thing that's always worked for me is just the blue light glasses. That's always been a game changer for me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm on my phone all day, I'm on my personal computer all day. At work at Rogue, I'm only computer all day. I'm doing out
Mm-hmm.
calls. I'm dealing with pissed off people all day long. That I'm always exposed to lights and technology. That my biggest thing is just to get away from everything and
Mm-hmm.
just chill out. Like honestly, like this can sound like stupid or very like unmanly. My biggest thing is just
Mm-hmm.
laying on my wife and like relaxing. That calms me down because
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't have that mother figure growing up
Mm-hmm.
and not calling my wife my mom, but she provides that comfort that I need.
Mm-hmm. Just that
That a
feminine
lot,
energy to
yes,
kind of
she provides
offset,
that.
balance yours.
It provides that family. I didn't really have family
Mm-hmm.
growing up. When I think family, I think of fighting and very dysfunction from my personal life. That she provides a lot of comfort. That for me, usually, like if we're sitting on the couch or in bed, I'm laying on her because that calms me down. It
Mm-hmm.
allows me to comfort. So you have to find what that comfort thing is. Like the things like if I have my cat in the bed, like one of our cats, that comforts me to rest. That provides comfort and like affection and allows me to chill out. So it really is about finding what works for you. And it might
Mm-hmm.
take time to dig apart. Like if I look back on like myself, I never would have thought like one of the things I needed was like comfort as a family level type thing to
Mm-hmm.
relax. I never would have thought about that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was someone that took all these supplements, got to have this perfect protocol and sleep routine, and it never worked. That it's just something you got to think about. You maybe got to think
Mm-hmm.
about the things that you never would have thought would have helped you, like
Yeah, and
the
it's
things you
about
don't want
trying
to do.
those things too. It's not just about
You got to be
thinking them.
very
It's
open.
yeah, it's about a little bit of trial and error there too. It's not just
Yep.
about, okay, well, this is going to work for me. I have my heart set on this, and if this doesn't work, I'm just going to give it up. Like, okay, like this didn't work, or I'm not sure if this is working or not. Let me try something else. Let me incorporate something else. And I feel like
Yep.
sometimes we feel defeated in a sense of this didn't work, nothing's going to work. So,
Yeah. Again, it goes back to that yes society. We've never
mhm,
heard no. We've always been told there's winners and winners. There's not winner and
mhm,
loser. It's not a bad thing to be a loser. Like
mhm,
at times you got to lose at life or something has to not work out, but that's how you get better.
mhm,
Doesn't mean you're a shitty person. Like whether it's bodybuilding or something doesn't go well at a job or whatever sleep routine or whatever diet doesn't work for you, that type of thing, doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
did anything wrong. Like the biggest thing that I always ask with anything in life is just effort. Like just say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I tried it. It wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I do? Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go through the list. You'll eventually find something that works for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just will. And if you can't, that's where you do need to dig deeper. Do you have some sort of like underlying health condition you don't think about?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, like maybe you have sleep apnea. I had
Mm-hmm.
really terrible one until I downsized tremendously, and that was the only way I get rid of it. Maybe you have that. Maybe you need to wear a CPAP if you're after maybe a bodybuilding fitness lifestyle. Maybe you need that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be open to trying and not just feel defeated just because something didn't work because some guru told you to do it and they said this works, or Ben
Yeah.
Greenfield said, hey, do this and it's going to work and you're going to be the optimal man or woman,
Yeah.
that
You
type of
need
thing.
a 2 hour walk in the morning, 3 hours of meditation. All of a sudden it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you've got nothing done.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
so, but yeah, I feel like that's a good place to leave off. We packed a ton of information in here that's going to be beneficial to a lot of people. So I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
if you want, you can drop where we can find like your podcast, or where we can find you on Instagram, and I'll link those up to the show notes if that's all right with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I
Yeah.
run Over the Edge podcast. You
Mm-hmm.
can find that on Spotify or iTunes. Yes, there's some bodybuilding stuff. I have gotten more and more away from bodybuilding and just overall health, fitness, that type of thing. Um, my biggest thing is to really change your thought process on things, maybe the things that are a little bit unorthodox or you didn't think about. So you can find us there. We got a number of guests. We'll start doing more one-on-one episodes of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that on iTunes or Spotify. In terms of finding me, if you're on Facebook, Trey Bruffey, you just message me there. Or if you go on Instagram, it's at beopposite23. If you want to reach out for coaching or just pick my brain, you can
Mm-hmm.
message me there. Email, you can either do beopposite23 at gmail.com. That's my original one. My new one's beoppositetraining at gmail.com. Or you can click Linktree and all my contacts there. But feel free to
Mm-hmm.
reach out for anything. Or if you just maybe need someone to, maybe a lot of the stuff I said or we talked about resonated with your stuff, you just need someone
Mm-hmm.
that's like minded.
Mm-hmm.
It's very beneficial to find someone that's like minded and be like, hey, I've really never talked about this, but I had
Yeah.
similar things growing up or this and that. And I just haven't found a coach that can resonate with that or be opening to understanding that. Cool. If you just need someone to chat with, feel free to
Mm-hmm.
always reach out.
Yeah. No, I think that's really, really kind of you. So yeah, that's where we'll leave off today. And that's gonna do it. So Trey, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, buddy.